want to tell you today about some federal assistance that is available in every state across America during this very difficult time of the 2020 pandemic. I am a small landlord. A small landlord is defined as anyone who has a dwelling that is between 1 and 10 units. Now, you can own many properties, but the property for which this grant is available is a building that is between 3 and 10 units. It doesn't matter what your gross income is. This is not a program that is defined by income. It's just to help you with a particular building in which you have tenants who are still not able to pay their rent. I found out recently, and it's quite interesting, that in most states, almost 40% of all rental units are in small dwellings or smaller buildings. We all know that in urban centers there are many high-rises that contain 200-300 units. These buildings are not available for this particular grant. Also, if the building in which you have tenants unable to pay the rent is a seasonal or a vacation rental, it is not eligible for this grant. It must be for regular year-round tenants. The forms to apply for this grant are very simple, and all applications must be done online. This should not deter you, because you can go to your local library and there will be someone there who will help you fill out the forms, which will take less than a half hour. The Housing, Mortgage, and Finance Agency, or your Department of Community Affairs. You should be in touch with these two agencies to find out when this grant money is available. Now, when the announcement comes out in your state that there is this small landlord's emergency grant available, you only have about 10 days in which to make this application and submit it. So if you call your local governmental agency and find out that the application process is closed, don't get dismayed, because very often there is a second wave of the grant or a third wave of the grant. So make sure you get your paperwork and your documentation together. They will be issuing another period of grant application. I'd like to tell you now the qualifications, which are only 6, and the documentation that is necessary for you to submit for a grant. First, the property for which you are applying to be given help for losses must be in the state in which you are applying. For example, you cannot live in Massachusetts and own a rental property in New Jersey, and the New Jersey property has losses. If you're applying in Massachusetts, the property must be in Massachusetts. Again, as I mentioned before, the property must not be a seasonal or vacation rental. It must be a regular year-round rental. The property for which you're applying must be registered with your state housing agency. Usually this is the Department of Community Affairs. The registration is usually given to you because once every 3 years or 5 years, there's usually a state inspection to make sure that the property is being kept safe and up to code. The next qualification is that you must be current in both your local and state taxes. The losses for which you are applying has to be between February 2020 and July 2020, because this was the initial period of the COVID virus and the pandemic. Also, you're going to be asked to show a local fire certificate. Most rentals, when you go for your certificate of occupancy, or you go to buy and sell a place, you have to have a current fire certificate that was issued between 2019 and 2020. There's going to be 3 documents that you will be asked to upload to your application. The first one is a copy of the tenant's lease. You only need the first page and maybe the last signature page. The second document you're going to have to upload is a copy of a bank statement that shows the amount of the tenant rent when they last paid it. For example, if the tenant pays $1,400 a month, pull up a bank statement from 3 or 4 months earlier that just shows his one deposit. And lastly, you're going to have to upload a copy of a fire certificate to show that in the last 2 years, the property has been inspected either by the local or state government. Now, these qualifications and documentation that I'm telling you about is fairly standard from state to state. It may vary a little bit, and they may ask for more or less. But again, the point is, it's really worth it to apply. It's very nice that you can get some sort of help during this pandemic period. I hope this information has been helpful to you. And if it has, just give the video a thumbs up and subscribe, because I'm going to be coming out with more information of grants available to landlords.